This is Vermont Edition. I'm Michaela Lafrac. Whenever I pick my daughter up from school these days, it seems like she always has some weird new injury. Yesterday, it was a busted lip. The day before, she swears to me that one of her classmates bit her cheek, but I'm not totally certain that's true. Her teachers say there's a lot of, quote, crazy spring energy in the classroom right now. And it's not just humans that are feeling it. Millions of birds are busily making their way back north to their northern habitats after a winter spent in warmer climes. They're flying, they're chirping, they're getting ready to mate. It's crazy spring energy everywhere. Today is Vermont Edition's annual spring migration show with our beloved guest, the Bird Diva, Bridget Butler. She leads bird walks and gatherings all across the region. She's also the executive director of the Friends of Northern Lake Champlain, which is a nonprofit that's working to reduce water pollution from runoff. Bridget, welcome back.
All right, spring craziness, let's go.
Yes,
It's
crazy
so
spring
good.
energy.
You can feel it. You certainly can feel it, especially on those sunny days.
Yes, it's coming out. And listeners, we're guessing you have been seeing or hearing some interesting birds recently. If you want to tell us about it or just need some help identifying the species that you think you saw, you can give us a call throughout the hour at 800-639-2211. And we're also doing something a little bit different with Bridget this time around. If you have a recording of a bird that you have heard recently, you can email that file to us at vermontedition@vermontpublic.org, and we'll play it on air for everyone to hear. I want to start, actually, Bridget, with some sounds. Roy in Rutland Town sent us a couple of different recordings he's done recently. Let's start with this one, and we can see if you know what it is. Okay. I'm sure you do.
Oh my gosh.
What do we have here?
Okay, so we got layers here. I love this. This is layered. Roy, good job. All right, so when you listen to this, you can hear the knocking, the tapping, and one's in the foreground and one's in the background, right? So that's like a call and response.
Oh, they're talking to each other?
They're talking to each other. So this is likely two males setting up territory, and woodpeckers, right? So we know woodpeckers do the drumming thing. When it's really loud like this, that's the sound that is all about territory and mating. And so when we get that back and forth thing going on, where one drums and then the other one calls back, they're trying to establish where their territorial lines are. So that's really fascinating. And then when you start to listen a little bit more, you hear, you can hear chickadee in there too. So, and my ear is not great. It took me, I tried so hard.
Don't even.
No, to learn woodpeckers, right? Okay. And so one of the things with woodpeckers that you want to focus on, I got to relearn them each year. So don't put yourself down if you have to do that with birds and birdsong, right? It's okay. It's been an absence of this type of sound for a number of months. It comes back in. You're like, oh my gosh, I knew all this last year. And then it doesn't come to you as quickly. That's okay. Give yourself some time to get back into it. So I got to get back into woodpeckers. And the way that I would do that is really start to listen at the rapidity, the quickness of the drumming, how close that drumming is together. So we have hairy and downy woodpecker. One has a closer drumming than the other. I can't recall those two either. Maybe a listener can call in and be like, okay, this one is a little bit further apart than the other one. And the other thing, too, is like the length of the total drumming itself. So the rapidity of it and then the length of the drumming can give you an idea who it is. But for me, that's two woodpeckers that are like setting up territory.
Okay, well, Roy sent us another sound, too. Let's take a listen.
You can kind of groove to this one.
For some reason, this one brings me right back to my childhood. I don't know why. It just reminds me of like spring as a kid.
And where did you grow up?
In Virginia.
Okay. So this is a species that we see all along the East Coast. So this is Carolina wren. So that tea kettle, tea kettle, tea kettle, tea. And you might hear something different. That's how I describe it. But it's like this little da-da-da-da-da-da-da, right? Even just mimicking it can help us kind of cement that bird's vocalization. And then when we put the name together, and then if we get a chance to see it while it's singing, like that's the magic that pulls all of the threads.
Yeah, it's just like learning in school when they have you sing a song to remember something a little bit better. Yeah.
Without a doubt.
We have a caller who I think has a question about one of these species we just heard. Let's go to Jane in St. George. Jane, go ahead.
Hi, Bridget. Jane Schlossberg here. Good to talk to you.
Hey, Jane.
I have a question. Now, we've had about 5 years of red-bellied woodpeckers breeding here, right where I am up in the Heinsberg, St. George area. And it's really been delightful, but I know they're not considered migratory. So where are they going in the winter when they aren't here? I know that sapsuckers do migrate, but we still have the downy, the hairy, the pileated year-round. Where are the red-bellied?
Yeah, so I think one of the things that we think about when we think about migration is that migration is this big, long journey, right? And we have to go all the way to like Central or South America to be a migrant. But we have all types of different migrants, right? So our smaller neotropical songbirds like the warblers and the vireos, those are the ones that are going to be here, and then they're looking for those tropical escapes during the wintertime, right? So they go really far away. Even some of our shorebirds do that as well. We have shorebirds that go all the way down to Argentina. So the other two kind of categories of migratory birds that we don't always emphasize or talk about or think about are the mid-distance migrants and then the short-distance migrants. So we have mid-distance migrants like the woodpeckers that you mentioned, like the yellow-bellied sapsucker and red-bellied woodpecker. They're going to move like mid-distance. It might be out of the state. It might be a couple states away from where we are to get in more suitable weather where there's not as much competition with the resident woodpeckers that we have throughout the winter. And then we have short distance migrants that may just change elevation. Like I think about dark-eyed junco, which is still sticking around down in the lowlands right now. So this is a small chickadee-sized bird. It's in the sparrow family. You'll see them on the ground during the wintertime in these loose flocks, dark slate gray on the back and then white on the belly with, oh my gosh, Michaela, they have the cutest little pink bills.
Oh, pink.
Pink. Well, like light pink, like super blush, like champagne pink.
Like millennial pink.
Yeah, totally millennial pink. So dark-eyed juncos are these short-distance migrants. They come down into the valleys during the wintertime, and then they go up into the mountain ranges during the summer and spring to breed. So they're still here now, but they're going to do that short-distance migration to higher elevation. So when we look at families of birds like woodpeckers, we have longer-distance migrants, we have mid-distance, and then we have the residents that stay around.
Well, Jane, thanks so much for the call. I just learned something already.
Sweet.
Okay, so we started with woodpeckers, and we have one other question on the woodpecker.
We'll keep with the woodpecker theme.
It's from John, and John writes, about a week ago, I saw a red-headed woodpecker at my bird feeder. I've seen many hairy and downy woodpeckers, but this one was strikingly different, its whole head being red. My Merlin app does not list red-headed woodpeckers for New England, but I swear I saw one.
You are right, and you and Jane need to hang out. Okay, so this is the crazy thing about how we name birds. It's so frustrating sometimes. And I'm using my Sibley guide right now, so I have it all tabbed out by bird family.
You do.
So that I can flip
very
through
organized.
And find it. There it is. There's woodpeckers.
You did well in high school, didn't you?
Yeah, I'm so perfect with my notes. So there is a red-headed woodpecker. We don't have them in this region. When I was at the biggest week a few years ago in Ohio, I got to see a red-headed woodpecker for the first time. Really beautiful bird, about a little bigger, somewhere in between a hairy and a downy in size, but color blocks, red head, black across the shoulders, white on the lower back and wings, black on the tail, white on the belly. And so you saw a bird, a woodpecker, right? You got the silhouette. You're like, that looks like a woodpecker to me. It's got a red head. It must be called a red-headed woodpecker. Wah, wah. It's not. It's called a red-bellied.
Oh,
how frustrating. And that's because they have a little bit of this light, rusty red wash on on their bellies.
Well, that is confusing.
It's very confusing. So what I recommend people do is when we learn birds, that we learn them in suites, like suites of birds based on habitat. And that way we get at our regional habitat and the regional birds that we have. So while Merlin is supposed to know your zip code and help you with that, geez, Merlin, come on, get with it. Here we are. We've been touting Merlin for years, and now we're just frustrated with Merlin. You got, come on. So red-bellied is the one that we have that has the full red capped head here in Vermont.
Okay. All right. Well, John, thank you.
There you go.
Yeah.
You're not
Go
seeing
forth.
things.
You're not. We have a caller in Richmond, Carolyn. Carolyn, you're on the air. Go ahead.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay. Well, I called in before, and I'm on my way to an appointment, so I can't talk long. But 3 days ago, I stepped out of where I was working in Williston and heard a high shrill, and looked up, and I saw in the crown of two different very tall trees a mass of what turned out to be waxwings. And my bird app told me it was both cedar and Bohemian waxwings. All I could see was the silhouettes.
Yeah.
But it was amazing. I think there's at least 70 birds.
Wow. That's awesome.
Yeah, thanks for telling us about it.
Okay, so cedar and Bohemian. I love that she was like, I was walking outside. These are the moments for slow birding, right? You're in transition from one place to another, especially when we walk from inside to outside. This time of year, all of a sudden there are all these different sounds. Waxwings hang out together in flocks, and sometimes both the cedar and the Bohemian will be found in a mixed flock together. Bohemians are a little less common than the cedar waxwings. They tend to be a little bit more nomadic, so they'll go where there's good food. They're just kind of cruising around. I have this vision of them in like a Volkswagen Bug van, just going wherever the good food is. They're just going with the flow. Bohemians are a little bit bigger than the cedar waxwing, and then to tell the difference beyond size, you can look for what we call the undertail coverts. I call it the underbutt. It's like that place where the tail meets the body, and it's on the underside because we have upper tail coverts and undertail coverts.
We did a show about herpetology last week and talked a lot about butts, and it kind of stressed out one of our producers. So if we could repeat that again, that'd be
going
great.
with the
any
butts.
bird butt facts you got.
So there's an upper butt and an underbutt, and the underbutt on the Bohemian is a rusty kind of rich brick red color, and on cedar waxwings, their underbutt is white, and then you can tell them apart.
This is what we should be naming birds after.
Right? Let's just rename these birds, the rusty underbutt bird.
That's good. All right, we have another bird ID for you. It's from Katya in Braintree. Katya recorded a bird that was very active around their farm last spring, and their Merlin app, Merlin, was never able to identify it. Please help solve the mystery of who makes this call.
Not be any clearer.
Okay, so I had a feeling immediately.
What?
And it was, oh no, I don't know this. And then I was like, yes, I know this. And I know why. Merlin probably was like, no, I don't know what that is. Was
it because of the shuffling? Did they struggle with like a person or a door opening?
Yeah, so
those other
sometimes
sounds?
Merlin doesn't like that, right? Like when you use Merlin, and this is for those of you who haven't been listening to Michaela and I talk about this for the past couple of years. Merlin is a free app from Cornell Lab of Ornithology that you can get for your phone, and it's basically like Shazam for birds, right? So it's the thing we've all been waiting for. I just want to hold this thing up and be able to know who's singing outside my house. And sometimes Merlin is really good, and sometimes Merlin's not so great.
I feel like it's good that we're giving them a light critique right now because people probably assumed that we were being sponsored by Merlin, which we are not.
No, not at all. So the app, you want to get as close to the sound as you can. You definitely want to hold still and try not to talk or sneeze or any of that, or ruffle like your clothes.
Oh, yeah.
You want to just, and you know this from being in radio, right? We have all these ways of protecting microphones so there isn't distortion to them. So you want to do that too to your phone. So angle your body so there's not wind blowing across the microphone, things like that. But what I think is going on here is I think that there's a lot of variation in this bird's song. I believe this is tufted titmouse. It's got that same kind of tootie, tootie, tootie pattern to it. And what's really cool about the family of birds that titmice are in, which is the Paradei, which our chickadees are in as well, is that there's a lot of variation in their song geographically. So you can go from one part of the Northeast to another. Like I can remember teaching birds in Maine. I was teaching a bird language course on the coast there. And the coastal tufted titmice sounded very different than our more woodland tufted titmice. And I love that. I love that there's like regional dialects for birds. So I think that's what's going on. I think that's why Merlin couldn't figure that out, because that's one of the species that has a lot of variation depending on where you are in the United States.
Well, let me reintroduce you here. We're speaking today with the Bird Diva, Bridget Butler, for our annual Spring Migration Show. And if you have birding questions or you've seen a really unique bird recently, something that caught your eye, give us a call at 800-639-2211. We need to take a short break, but we'll take more of your calls in just a moment. This is Vermont Edition. Stay with us. Welcome back to Vermont Edition. I'm Michaela Lafrac. I'm here today with the Bird Diva, Bridget Butler, discussing spring bird migration. Bridget's also the executive director of the Friends of Northern Lake Champlain, a nonprofit that's working to reduce water pollution. Bridget, I want to talk to you a little bit about owls, because we've gotten lots of owl comments and queries today. My birding friend, Taryn, who I always check in with before you and I do this show, was really excited to hear a little bit more about the boreal owl that was seen around here during a recent snowstorm. They said that only a few folks saw it, but a friend of theirs said it was, quote, like seeing Michael Jordan at Oakledge Park, which I loved. First, can you describe this bird and how rare is it to see one around here?
Yeah, so this is, I don't know, this belongs to the group, and this is not a scientific term, okay, of cosmically cute owls. Okay, these are like all the little guys, like the elf owl and like maybe burrowing owl. And here in Vermont, we have the northern saw-whet owl, which is about the size, actually, it's about the size of your tea mug. Okay. Or if you think about like a can of soda, like the normal size cans of soda, not the giant ones.
Not the tall boy.
Not the tall boy ones. That is why they're cosmically cute. They're these small owls. They're full grown at that size. So our northern saw-whet owl is an owl that breeds in the state. They really like kind of coniferous, a lot of like cedars or hemlocks, things like that. And they leave the state and then come back during this time of year. Now, the boreal owl is similar. It's a little bit bigger, and where our northern saw-whet owl has like these beautiful rusty tones, this one has like charcoal gray tones to it. A little bit larger, those nice bright yellow eyes, and they're really uncommon in Vermont. This is one when I lived up in the northern part of Vermont near Jay Peak that I absolutely really wanted to see, because we had a few sightings that had come from that region in the 80s. And then I think we've had a couple other sightings in Eden, Vermont, and maybe even one in Middlesex. So they're small little chunky owls. They really like boreal habitat, mixed woods, and they're cavity nesters too. And they'll likely roost in cavities as well. So I think what was so exciting about this is this bird was really kind of outside of its range. If we think about boreal forests in Vermont, that's mostly in the Northeast Kingdom, that part of the state, which is a great place to go and try to find a boreal owl. Most of the time.
This is a very good transition to a note we got about 11-year-old Scarlett and
Aw.
13-year-old Eleanor from Greensboro Bend. They say that they saw a barred owl sitting in a field with some deer around 8 p.m. one night, and then around 9 p.m. they heard a northern saw-whet owl doing its call in the woods, and they
Nice.
sent us this recording.
Oh my gosh.
Is that the saw-whet?
Yes, that's the saw-whet. The boop, 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 boop. Okay, so Jane and I do this during the But Why Kids podcast show on birds because it's one that's easy to mimic, right? It sounds like a truck backing up.
Yeah.
And everybody can just go boop, 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 boop. But what I love about this is it's like not what you traditionally think of as an owl. I love all these things that break all the children's books we grew up on. Like robins are a sign of spring. Robins are here year round in the valleys. And maybe we should have turkey vulture as the sign of spring. Or all owls go hoot. There are owls that screech, and there are owls that sound like trucks backing up. There are owls that sound like barking seals. So there's a lot of variety in vocalizations of birds in order for them to stand out and to connect with each other on the landscape.
Well, speaking of how rare the boreal owl was, in talking to my friend about this sighting, she mentioned that there's a lot of back and forth going on right now about whether or not to disclose on a birding app or, just on social media or tell your friends exactly where an owl is because they're so they need protection. They don't want like a huge bunch of people running up there.
Well, like the basis of this is that they're trying to survive, right? They're just doing their thing every day. And part of their thing every day is to rest and digest and stay hidden, especially some of these smaller owls, which are food sources for larger runs. So say you find a spot where an owl, a small saw-whet or a screech owl likes to roost, and you go and visit that roost over and over again. You're drawing attention to that spot to the eyes of other predators, right? So without even knowing it, we can inadvertently bring not only harm from a predator, but stress to owls. When we put our needs for that check off the list first. So I get it. It's really hard. And this is where like my slow birding approach and my conservation-minded approach kind of collide is that, and at the same time, my conservation-minded approach is putting the welfare of the bird first.
Yeah.
And that's what we should always do. And while it's really hard if you are a lister and you love going after those, it's your life bird. I've never seen a boreal owl. I haven't seen a boreal owl. You get to make a choice, hopefully, whether or not you're going to go see it. And then again, there's also the landowner, right? And then there's the bird. So I think what I default to is for conservation purposes, I find a way to report the bird so that we know about its presence on the landscape because we want to know when birds are shifting. It might be due to climate change. There might be habitat loss. There might be something going on that causes them to push down into this area a little bit more frequently. And so we want to know those things. And so there are ways to obscure sightings or to report them in a way that keeps them private. So it's really about putting the bird first.
Yeah. Well, while we're on the topic of owls, we got another owl recording from Eric in Montpelier, who says it took Eric a while to figure out what this call was. They wrote that every April or May, a mystery bird returns to the trees outside my Montpelier home and sings its long descending song, which sounds rather like a caricature of someone snoring.
Wow.
So Eric says that they shared the recording with some local bird experts and the Cornell Lab of Ornithology. Folks couldn't identify what it was. Eventually, they sent it to a friend in the Massachusetts Audubon Society, and they identified it as a rare mating call of the northern saw-whet owl.
Oh, wow. Okay. I love that. Like my audio file kit did not recognize that. And so what my head started to do was listen to it as a series series of the same note repeated.
Yeah.
And it was descending and kind of fading out at the end, right? So this is this other piece, right, where when we design things like Merlin, or we put things online so that folks have the tools that they need to identify birds, we can't put all the vocalizations in there. So, for example, barred owl has a lot of different vocalizations that it makes for different reasons and different things. But the one that we know is the "who cooks for you all" one, right? But they have a screeching sound that the babies make. Wow. They have just a ooh all kind of sound that they make. So again, there's a lot of variation for a species. And so I love that they were persistent, right? So we're going to stick with it. We're going to try to hone down time of year, habitat type, all of that, put all those things in place to think about what the possibility is. What we do have out there are different repositories for audio sound. So there's the Macaulay Library of Sound. There's also a website called Xenocanto that you can go to. And when I go back to, we were talking about the tufted titmouse having a lot of variety based on geography. We can do that same thing by using those audio libraries to grab different sound files from different places or different times of year, and that can help us get closer to a bird too.
That's so cool.
Good for them for like seeing it through. I love that.
Yeah, thanks, Eric. Let's go to the phones. We got lots of folks calling in. You're always so popular, Bridget. Jennifer in Thetford is up next. Jennifer, go ahead.
Hi, Bridget. I have a quick question for you. This year, we decided to try and lure some bluebirds into our yard, and we did a lot of studying with building the right size boxes with the right size hole, and spent some money on putting up these 3 houses facing eastward. Long story short, the day came. The bluebird family arrived. My husband and I were just so excited. My question is, the male behavior is so strange. He's been trying to get into windows. He's obsessed with looking at himself in the mirrors on the cars in the driveway. The female, she seems like maybe she's out building a nest somewhere, not in one of our boxes, but it's just compared to the rest of the birds, it's like the strangest behavior. It kind of reminds me of a parakeet. And I'm just wondering, is this normal bluebird behavior, or do we have a funny guy here in our
Jennifer, I'm so glad you asked this, because we also got a question on Vermont Public's Instagram asking if we could discuss the, quote, strange behavior of bluebirds with you today, Bridget.
So I'm going to give you a really fun set of behavior books to go and find. They're called the Stokes Guide to Bird Behavior. Wow. Genius, right? And Donald and Lillian Stokes are like some of the most amazing birders that have been part of, especially the northeastern birding community, written a lot of different books. And so they have a 3-volume set that gives you behaviors through the year based on what the bird's doing during those particular times of year. So I'd really encourage anybody who's really fascinated by behavior to pick up that 3-volume set. Okay, so weird bluebird behavior. I don't think this is weird at all. We see this in robins as well. When birds build nests, sometimes it's both the male and female doing it. Sometimes it's the male, sometimes it's the female. And sometimes they have 2 very different roles. So you're noticing the female may be searching out other nest cavities, maybe even natural nest cavities other than your bluebird box. But what the male is actually doing is not being enamored with himself. It's that he sees his reflection in things and thinks it's another male. That's competition. And so that's why he is probably visiting those same spots over and over again to reestablish with that mirror male that he's seeing that, no, this is my spot. This is my lady. Maybe we're going to take this box. I don't know yet, but we don't want you around here kind of thing. We see this in robins too. Last night I was doing a talk for the Charlotte Land Trust, and we were talking about robins hitting windows over and over again during this time time of year, or the ones that like to sit on your car and go at the car mirror.
And would it be helpful for Jennifer or somebody else seeing this behavior to put the stickers that people use on people
Yep, you
on
can
their
put the
windows?
stickers on the outside in a matrix pattern. There are these bird collision stickers that can help break up the reflective quality of the glass so that birds don't fly into it thinking it's a continuation of whatever the habitat is that's reflected in it. But and may, like, I guess a bluebird with a sticker on their face may not be as intimidating as, a bluebird without a sticker on their face. But I would say, too, that trying to cover up the window a little bit more, or I've used flagging tape before and just taped it to the outside of the window. So it's something fluttery that is going to cause the bird not to want to come near that mirror. Doesn't always work.
Yeah.
So you've got a couple weeks of all of these males with a lot of hormones going through their bodies, just trying to find territory, find
It's
a
that
mate.
crazy spring energy.
It's that crazy spring energy that we open the show with. That's what it is.
Well, then, Jennifer, thanks so much and good luck with your kooky bluebirds. Let's go to Grace, who's in Montreal. Grace, go ahead.
Hi. Two questions. First of all, in the mornings I've been hearing, and it wakes me up, I go a little before 6, and I use BirdNet. Is that a good app, do you think?
Yeah, I think so. Any bird apps that can help you kind of get closer to whoever you want to experience are great.
Yeah. So, and it identified it as a cardinal, but when I'm seeing the cardinals during the day, which we have a lot of, I live near the river, the Northern River, on the island of Montreal.
Nice.
And but we also live near like amongst forests as well. So we have good bird stuff going on here. But so I'm just going to try to do an impression here.
Yes.
Would you say that's a cardinal?
The one that goes kind of like that?
Mm-hmm.
Yes,
Yep.
It is a cardinal. Oh my gosh, I think this is the
so fun.
first time I've ever whistled back and forth with a guest. Grace, I love it.
That's so great. Because I mean, during the day I call back and forth with them, but it seems like that changes. Their songs change during the day. Is that possible?
Yes, it is. So again, you guys are pulling a great theme through this show that's about the variation even within a species of their vocalizations. And again, when we start to learn birdsong, we're fed the most common vocalization for that bird. And it may be the most common sound or maybe the most common call, but know too that they have an A song, a B song, a D song. They may even have a C, D, E, F song. So there's a lot of variation and they use them in different ways. I would encourage you to push just a little bit further and can you discern the context for that particular song? So maybe you can discover, why does the cardinal go into that pew, 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 wit, 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 wit song? Is the female nearby? Is it another male? Did they just finish with a chase, right? I have chasing cardinals. It's 2 males and a female in my yard. And all morning as the sun comes up, it's all of this back and forth. So start to notice the context for that call, and you'll deepen that knowledge of that bird.
Well, Grace, thanks so much for calling in. I also just want to say, with everything going on right now, we're not hitting politics in this show, but I am so glad to hear our Canadian listeners calling in right now.
Thank you, Grace.
We can all unite over birds.
Without a doubt.
We have to take a break in 1 second, but I do want to play one more audio clip. This is from Jessica in Essex Junction. She recorded it yesterday morning and is just curious if we recognize any of the birds that are in it.
Okay, there's so many here.
There's a woodpecker. There we go.
Nice job. There's crow. I hear song sparrow.
Okay.
That was song sparrow right at the end there. I think there's even some juncos in there.
Wow.
There was a lot.
It's a party.
Yeah. Gosh, you got a great yard.
Jessica, thanks so much for sending that in. We have some more clips to play for you in just a moment. But first, one more short break. This is Vermont Edition. Stay with us. Welcome back to Vermont Edition. I'm Michaela Lefrak. Today is our annual Spring Bird Show with the Bird Diva, Bridget Butler. Bridget, before we go back to the phones, I want to play one more clip that was just sent to us by Persis, who says that the wood thrush, which we're about to hear, is their favorite bird.
Yeah.
There's a lot going on in there.
See
it's not
how
just
my
one
voice
call.
just gets softer when I listen to thrushes?
Yeah.
Gosh, they're so magical. So we're a few weeks out from being able to hear that in the woodlands. But gosh, it's going to be just so wonderful when all of our thrush friends arrive back, whether it's hermit thrush or Swainson's or wood thrush. They have that fluty, ethereal sound to them. Jane and I talk about this too in the But Why Kids show, where birds have this really unique set of vocal cords. It's different than ours. We have a larynx, it's one set of cords. Birds have a syrinx, it's two sets. And so when you hear that fluty, ethereal sound that almost sounds like it's harmonizing, it's not almost, it actually is, because birds with those two sets of vocal cords, they can have one set of vocal cords produce one pitch and another set of vocal cords produce another pitch, and they can harmonize with themselves. So incredible. And that's what makes that sound so magical and something that we can't mimic, like Grace mimicked, right? Like cardinal is the nice clear note sound that we can mimic really easily. It's much harder to try to imitate a thrush sound because we don't have that vocal cord set up.
Huh.
So cool.
You've mentioned Jane once or twice during the show. I just want to clarify for listeners who aren't familiar. That's Jane Lindholm, who hosts the kids podcast But Why, and you two have done a couple events together
recently.
about birds for children. Yeah.
So good.
Well, let's go to Stephen, who's in Stratford. Stephen, you're on the air. Go ahead.
Hi. I have a blueberry bush that I saved for the birds next to my house. And last year I had two pileated woodpeckers land in it, eat, and then fly out. And then about 5 minutes later, a baby came in. It was half the size of them.
Yeah.
And ate something and stayed there for a long time, ate as much as it could, and then flew out. And then maybe 2 months later, the baby was in a tree near my house screaming for its parents because I think that they were done with it, you know?
Yeah. They're like, you got to get your own blueberries. We're not going to show you where all the bushes are anymore. That's hard.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
It's the
You're on
opposite
your
of gentle
own.
parenting.
Exactly.
But I didn't know that they came so close. I mean, I've never seen one that close to a house or to people.
So
Three of them.
It's so interesting that you bring this up. Last night with the Charlotte Land Trust, I was talking about rewilding our backyards to create a slow birding sanctuary, but then also to create a refuge for birds. And a lot of the slides that I've picked for that show demonstrate that when we choose native species, especially native species with high counts of caterpillars on them or really great fruiting bodies or seeds or nuts, that we'll often get glimpses of birds that we don't normally get to see. Scarlet tanager is another bird that's a high canopy bird, stays way up in the trees. Red body all throughout, and then these jet black wings. Most of the time you just see them. But during the summer months when we have these high sugar fruits like blueberries on the landscape, they will come down out of the canopy to feed on those, and especially the young will. So if you think about being a fledgling bird, that's a really dangerous time when you've first gotten out of the nest, right? And you're
You're a tasty treat for something out there.
You're a tasty treat for something else. And what's going to get you the energy to like escape and get away really quick? It's all of those summer fruits that have the high sugar content. So if you want more birds, plant more native species with different types of food varieties to them. I think of putting out a beautiful bird buffet on the landscape, and that's exactly what you're doing.
So it's not just about the water or bird feeder, but it's about the fruits too.
Right. It's about the fruit. It's about the tree species and plant species and the caterpillars on them as well. We often have focused on things that we can really tangibly see, touch, or feel, right? Like the nut, the fruit, the seed. we forget about protein because before the babies leave the nest, they've got to bulk up, grow. They've got to grow in all of those feathers. So you need a lot of protein to do that. We need to be okay with caterpillars eating trees and flowers and the things that we grow on the landscape because that's the protein source for these birds.
Slimy yet satisfying.
So good.
I just quoted Lion King. I clearly have a 4-year-old. Kim is in South Burlington. Kim, you're on the air. Go ahead.
Hey, how are you? Love you guys. Like, I hope you're having a great spring so far.
No,
My question is, do the birds, I'm trying to figure out how to phrase it, do birds have different vocal ranges based upon their gender?
Oh. Okay, so yes, depending on, it's not going to be for every species. And this is something that we've been taught that we need to unteach ourselves is that only the male birds sing. Only male birds have the melodious sounds. When I was coming up through school and studying natural history, there are a few exceptions to the rule, but for the most part, male birds are the ones that sing. We're discovering that that's not the case, that female birds often have their own song or a song that is of a different pitch. And so that's all going to depend on species. I can't think of one off the top of my head where like the male and the female have the same song, but the pitch is different. With owls, I do know that barred owl, that when you do the who cooks for you all, the you all on the end in a female has more vibrato to it than the male. And when I say vibrato, I mean that last note kind of vibrates a little bit more. And so I encourage people to pay attention even to the female birds. There's a great project out there called the Female Bird Song Project where they're looking to record. And oh my gosh, all these listeners know how to record birds and send them in. So you can record bird song and be part of this new library of sound for female birds.
Cool. It's like feminist bird watching.
Totally. Yes.
Well, okay, so I feel like every time you come on, there is an unexpected type of bird that becomes sort of our theme for the show. And it seems like owls is the one for today. We got a...
Woodpecker's a close second.
Yes, very true. All respect to the woodpecker. Jamie recorded this sound from his home in Calais near Curtis Pond. They said they see barred owls regularly, but this sounds different and more conversational. Any thoughts on what we're hearing?
Yes.
I think that's a monkey.
These are monkeys.
Yep,
that's
a monkey.
These are monkeys in the woods. No, and that's so funny. So again, here's our theme is that variety of vocalization. So, and I love that Jamie picked up on the fact that it was more conversational.
Yeah.
So
you can kind of hear that in
exactly,
it. Exactly,
right? And you're like, right, they're bouncing around with each other, and then another one will do that back, right? So this is like a family group. They're trying to stay in touch with one another. They're just vocalizing together. We get that kind of monkey-like quality to that for the barred owl. Super.
Yeah.
You guys are coming through for us today. Way to go.
So we we talked a lot about woodpeckers, we talked a lot about owls and some other things. We haven't talked much about shorebirds. So I have a question about that for you because the lake is really high right now. And I was curious if it might be tougher to see certain birds that need shallower water or shoreline. Like, is it going to be harder to spot shorebirds this year?
Yeah, definitely. I think right when they don't find those mud flats, they're gonna move on. Yeah, I noticed that too. In the fall, I like to look for shorebirds in the fall. Our spring shorebirds are like, they're dead set on getting to that quality habitat.
Where are they going?
They're going north into the tundra area, or all of them are along the coastline. We do have like upland sandpipers we'll have in some of our grasslands here. Oh, our killdeer buddies are back in your local parking lot, gravel lot, or on rooftop buildings. That's another kind of more upland-like shorebird. But when we have high lake levels and high water levels, right, those mud flats and those exposed areas where those types of birds find their food are just not available. So the birds have to move on or get creative. So you can get creative in thinking about where you could look for them. Maybe there's some places where the landscape has been inundated and there's like standing water left there, those are the places that I would start to look for our shorebirds coming through.
Okay. We just got another clip from Tim and Yana. Apologies if I'm mispronouncing your name. They're in Paulet, and they sent a recording of a timberdoodle that they recorded last spring. Let's take a listen.
Okay, I love this because you also have the soundscape of the spring peepers. And this is, I think, and then the twittering, you got that right at the end when they go up in the air. So this is the other piece that we tend to do when we listen for birds. Like we're so focused and intent on birds, or we're so focused and intent on the individual that we forget to open up and allow that whole soundscape to come in. And spring is an amazing time for this because, and I know you just had the amphibian show.
We did.
You get layers of sound out there. So we can enjoy the spring peepers, and the woodcocks share similar habitat. So where you hear spring peepers, you might be able to hear that timberdoodle.
I don't think I know what a timberdoodle looks like. Can you describe it? It sounds like a dog, like a poodle mix.
Yeah, no, much smaller, much smaller. So like tiny Nerf, the small Nerf footballs?
Yeah.
Okay, the smaller ones, kind of like that size. It looks like a shorebird, right? Then put a little squat head on it and a nice long bill. And somewhat long legs. They're cryptically colored, so they're mottled browns and tawny browns, kind of like your sweater that you have on. You're very woodcock-esque today.
Oh, great.
Timberdoodle-esque.
That's what I was going for.
And so they blend into the landscape. But they are in that shorebird family. They kind of look like that. Kind of cousin to the snipe. Do you know snipe?
Yeah, and I just Googled the timberdoodle, and I love it.
How was my description?
I think it was spot on.
Right.
Yeah, and I kind of bet.
You're vibing woodcock today.
I love that every day, Bridget. Okay, we have time for one more piece of audio. This is a mystery piece of tape. It's from Roger in Moncton. He says the Merlin app. Merlin did not recognize this bird call. Let's see if we can.
Okay, I can hear it way in the background. Just Roger, you're just pulling it right back and around again. So this is the other call of tufted titmouse. The Peter. Yep, very lightly.
Oh.
So, beautiful. You guys still need me. You still need me. Merlin's letting you down.
You're not just being replaced by AI.
I feel so good.
Humans are important still. We got an email too from Martha in Craftsbury Common, who says that one of their favorite little visitors at this moment is a fox sparrow. One has been at their Craftsbury home for the past 2 weeks. It feeds around the base of their evergreens, and they watch it raking the leaves looking for food. I usually see them this time of year, Martha says, and it's just a short time before they move on.
Yeah. That is like just a delightful, chunky, reddish fox brown, like she was talking about, sparrow that's moving through to go up into the boreal forest to breed. And it's really special when you get a glimpse of them. So thank you so much for that description. It just lights my heart up because you don't always get that seasonal time with a fox sparrow. So I'm really glad you did.
Yeah. Bridget, you had brought a poem to share with us. Unfortunately, I think we have spent so much of our time listening today that we're not going to have time. But if we can, I might see if we can put it on our website with the post for this show so folks can find out that. Yeah, since it's National Poetry Month.
It is National Poetry Month. And I was telling you as we were talking, as I came in, one of the reasons why I love poems so much is because they're kind of portals to experiences. And I really like to take them out of my sit spot because sometimes it's hard to get out of your head, even in nature. And so sometimes a poem can help take you there just a little bit further. And when it's a bird poem, you're golden.
Well, Bridget, it is always such a pleasure talking with you. Thank you so much for playing our little, I feel like we created a game show today with the bird songs. It was really fun.
Yeah, thanks to everybody who sent audio in.
Bridget Butler is the Bird Diva. You can find out more about her and her bird walks that she leads online. All right, that is all the time that we have for today's show. Thanks to everybody who called in. I know we've been doing a lot of animal programming recently, so if there's a species, a type of animal you want to learn more about, I've been really loving these conversations, and I hope you have been too. You can email us anytime at vermontedition@vermontpublic.org. Today's show was directed by Aaliyah Papes. Our managing producer is John Arendt, and our producers are Andrea Lorian and Daniela Fierro. Anna Berg is our intern, and our call screener today was Rick Barrett. Our theme music was composed by Myra Flynn. And just one more special thanks to Daniela for pulling together all those beautiful bird songs today. I'm Michaela Lafrac. Thank you so much for listening, and we'll catch up again soon.